What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we have an awesome guest. First time ever stopping by the channel, and I appreciate him so much for coming here. As you can see, right to my, I guess it's my left, but you're right, Matt O'Leary. Thank you for stopping by the channel, man.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you so much for having me on, Tigo.
Absolutely. So today, real simple, guys. We're going to go over our midseason awards. Obviously, we're at the bye week, and for the first time in a long time, the Jets finally have a bye week that's not week 6. And we can actually intelligently talk about midseason awards. So we're going to go over MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, offensive, all of that stuff in order. But let's start where we just started. MVP. If you had to give an MVP award right now, who do you think the most valuable player for the NFL is right now?
Yeah, really tough one. I was going back and forth, but I ended up landing on Jalen Hurts. I think what he's doing down in Philadelphia is nothing short of special. He had a lot riding on him going into his third year, and I think he's answered every single doubter. And obviously the addition of AJ Brown has really helped a lot. That team is just tremendous, and I think he's my MVP.
I totally agree in almost every single way. I just think that the reason I wouldn't give it to Jalen Hurts is just because I kind of look at it and I kind of feel just a little bit that Nick Sirianni and his coaching and what Gannon is doing offensively is covering up a lot of the things that he's doing. And I think that what Philadelphia is doing, they're winning not because Jalen Hurts is bad. That's not what I'm saying, but it's kind of like you could kind of put whatever quarterback you want there and they would be a little like they would win. Like if Derek Carr goes on that team, I think they're just as successful. Where for me, the person I gave the MVP, I had to go find the jersey. New York Jet, great. I'm giving it to Geno Smith, man. Did anybody predict Seattle to be in the position that they are now? Seattle are outperforming the expectation that everybody had on that team. Like, he is covering up so many of the mistakes and the little things by just being solid. And the way that I looked at it is it's most valuable player, right? The player that team can't lose. And I feel like Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and Seattle with Geno Smith were the top two that I was looking at because those teams without those guys are just not the same. Where I think in Philly, I think they'd still be 8-0 because that roster built around Jalen Hurts is so good. So I have to give it to Geno. He's doing some incredible things with a young O-line, young running back core, 2 diva wide receivers, and we saw what they did in the offseason, and he's got them working like a well-oiled machine in spite of the fact that that defense outside of Tariq Woolen is absolutely atrocious, and they're winning games because of Geno. So I'm giving it to Geno. But let's move on. Offensive Player of the Year. This one I spent a lot of time on. Where did you land for the Offensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, this was really tough. Actually, all of these are pretty tough. I think you can make a good case for a lot of different people. I like your Geno answer for MVP. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill, though. I think what he is doing down in Miami is tremendous. And, I was a doubter of it. I didn't know if it would work going down there because like Jalen Hurts, a year 3 quarterback, Tua is a year 3 quarterback that had a lot of question marks too. And he's also answered the bill. But I think with what Tyreek Hill has really brought down there to that offense, it just takes them to another level. He is such a special player, and it shows that he could have success with quarterbacks other than Patrick Mahomes. I think he's been tremendous.
Absolutely. And I think you took it right. Like, I'm going to say a different player just to say somebody else, but it's really hard when you look at it to say, you know what, it's not Tyreek Hill, because I think by far and away it's Tyreek Hill. If I had to give the answer that's not Tyreek Hill and say, you know what, this is the guy that I'm probably going to give my Offensive Player of the Year award to, it might honestly be his teammate in Tua, just because I don't think that Tua's like a good quarterback, but like, and I don't think Miami did either. Like, they lost their first round pick because they went to try to go out and get Tom Brady and all of the shenaniganery that's going on there. But Tua has come out and shut up a lot of the haters, and it said, has been accurate with the football, and he's just running that incredible offensive scheme that they've got in Miami at an incredibly high level. Tyreek Hill is going to end this season eclipsing 2,000 yards. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Somebody's throwing the ball to him, and it's a pretty good Tua Tagovailoa who's missed time. But yeah, Tyreek Hill was probably going to be my answer too. He's probably the runaway favorite with it, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. It's tough to give it to anybody else. I think you made a good case for Tua, but it's Tyreek for me.
No, it has to be Tyreek, right? I just wanted to give a different answer, and that was like the only other player where it's just like it has to be one of those guys because Tyreek is just out of this world. For Defensive Player of the Year, where did you land? I had a really, like, again, with all of these, I was fluctuating between two guys, and I picked one, and I want to see where you ended up at.
I ended up going with Parsons. I think what he's doing in Dallas is just tremendous. The season he had last year as a rookie was just unbelievable, and somehow he's almost gotten better, which I didn't think was possible. He is a special talent, and I think it has to go to Micah Parsons.
See, I had that. I was juggling between Micah Parsons and the person that I ultimately ended up picking. And we didn't talk beforehand or exchange notes or anything like that. And I specifically looked at it and I said, you know what? A lot of people are going to give this to Micah Parsons because he's on the edge, and it's like edge players get all the credit. But honestly, and I'm saying this not just because I'm a Jets fan, because if you look at the statistics and you look at all of I got to give it to Quinnen Williams. Because playing the interior of the defensive line, statistically, he's keeping up with almost every measurable statistic of what Micah Parsons is doing. If you look at total tackles, Quinnen Williams is only behind 4 tackles. He's got 35 to Micah Parsons' 39. If you look at sacks, they're both tied for 8. They both have 9 hits. Quinnen Williams is only behind in 3 hurries. He's got 1 batted pass to Micah Parsons, 0. 19 tackles to Micah Parsons, 20. Like every single measurable statistic where it should favor the edge rusher because they just get more things at them, he's doing at an incredibly high level from the interior of the defensive line. And when you're looking at like statistical measurements and you're saying what's more impressive, getting the stats from the interior or the edge, I'm always going to give the edge to the interior. Play on words there, if you get what I'm saying. And that's why I had to give it to Quinnen Williams. And I looked at it and I was like, people are going to think I'm having a Jets take here. But I'm being honest. Look at the numbers and look at the production that he's having from the closest next person on the interior of the offensive line that has anywhere near the same kind of numbers and production that he has this year, Quinnen Williams, is Vita Vea. Wow. And it's like, he's tied for 3rd with Micah Parsons when you look at sacks and tackles and all that stuff. Like, it's insane how productive Quinnen Williams is getting. So I had to give it to a Jet here just because I think he's earned it. I think this is like, he might not win it because the edge is more sexy, but if he doesn't get votes, it's rigged.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. He's got to be in consideration. I love it. I think you made a strong case for it, and he continues playing the way that he has in the first half. His name's going to be in the running for sure.
Has to be. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Would have been so easy. Just give it to Breece. And I almost did still. But he's not here. He's injured. Unfortunately, if you had to give Offensive Rookie of the Year to somebody, who are you giving it to?
Yeah, like you said, I think Breece Hall would have ran away with it. But I'm going to give it to Kenneth Walker. I think what he's doing in that Seattle offense has just been tremendous. I think it's a 2-horse race between him and Dameon Pierce. And I give the slight edge to Walker, who was dominant this past week and might take away the Rookie of the Week belt from one of our guys. But he's a special player. So I'm going to give it to Walker.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker is the guy that should win it. But the guy that I'm giving it to, just because of the circumstance and the team around him, is going to be Dameon Pierce. Houston is by far and away the worst team in the NFL. And when you look at the pieces that are around him and he runs angry is my thing with Dameon Pierce. Like, he stomps on the ground as if the ground is slept with his girlfriend. Like, he is an angry runner, and I love what he's doing there, and he's getting his yardage, and he's keeping up with a lot of these guys. He's not being taken down easily, but if you had to give it to somebody right now, I agree with you. I think it has to be Kenneth Walker. He's helping Geno with like filling up some of the holes that are like, they got 2 rookie offensive tackles and, all of these things. And Kenneth Walker's doing a big thing. Like Kenneth Walker is a borderline looking like possibly like a Derrick Henry light, with the way that he runs and how angry he looks when he's running.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a special talent. Both him and Brees Hall. I think they would have had a nice battle going the rest of the way if Brees didn't get hurt. But with Brees going down, I think it's Kenneth's.
Oh yeah. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think this was pretty easy. Who did you get?
Sauce Gardner.
Yep.
I think you got to give it to him. Even taking the Jets bias out of it, what he's done has been truly, truly special. When the Jets drafted him 4th overall, I thought they were going to get a guy who's, a stud, but I didn't think he would be this good right away. What he's doing as a rookie at the cornerback position, which is one of the harder positions to translate at the next level, is nothing short of remarkable. It's got to be Sauce.
I totally agree. And like, here's the thing, right? Like, I've been trying to not necessarily double up on players with you, but like, it's when I am going to also take Sauce because I think he is by far and away the best, not just defensive rookie of this class. I think he's the best player of this draft. And it's by like heads and shoulders better than anybody taken in this draft. The fact that 3 teams looked at Sauce Gardner and said, nah, we're good, absolutely blows my mind. It's a funny story. I actually tweeted this out. And I didn't say, hey, Jags, Lions, and Texans, thanks for... No. I said, it's crazy to me that 3 teams looked at Sauce Gardner and said, nah, I'm good. Thank you, Joe Douglas, for not being stupid and passing on Sauce. That's the tweet. And I got raided by Texans fans who somehow found the tweet and started, Stingley's been fine. He's good enough and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, because that's what you want. You want good enough, not the best player at his position as a rookie. And I'm not saying like he's the best rookie corner. I'm saying I think Sauce Gardner is the best corner in football right now, and he's a rookie. And so you have to give it to Sauce Gardner. If I had to give an honorable mention, Tariq Woolen might be the best value pick in this past draft. Was he a 4th or a 5th round pick, and he's performing at the level that he is? Absolutely insane.
Yeah, if it's not going to be Sauce, I think that's a good second option, but right now it's a pretty sizable gap for me.
Oh yeah, no, and my thing is a lot of Seattle fans are arguing like the stat line. Oh, he's got 4 interceptions, blah blah blah, and I go, hey, like that's fine and that's great, but like just pull up the tape of what they're doing, and what Sauce is doing is magical. You should not be able to move that well and be that big and long, and Tariq Woolen is playing excellently, but he's being aided, in my opinion, by a really good scheme, and he's being schemed. His coverage is being schemed, where Sauce is just covering guys. But no disrespect to Tariq Woolen, absolutely great comeback player of the year. Who do you got?
This was a tough one. I was between 2 guys, but I ended up landing on Saquon Barkley. I think coming back from the injury and playing as well as what he has been awesome for him. I mean, obviously he hasn't been the same guy over the last couple of years. When he came out in 2018, he was downright dominant. He made the transition from Penn State into the NFL and was really, really good. And then injuries kind of slowed him down, but he's finally back. He's finally healthy. And I think he's proving just how much of a superstar he really is.
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. It's another one of those things where like, I just don't think there is another answer. The Saquon Barkley is the comeback player of the year for me. Especially when you look at the fact that he went through, I think isn't it the same injury that Brees Hall has? Mm-hmm. And he struggled to come back, and this is like his 3rd offensive scheme that he's in, and, dealing with the incompetency of the New York Giants for a long time and the injury and all of that stuff. And then he comes back, and I don't think it's hyperbole when I say this, and I love Brian Dable, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but when you're talking about like the New York Giants offense, their play calling is hand the ball off to Saquon on 1st, hand the ball off to Saquon on 2nd. If he hasn't gotten the 1st down, throw the ball to Saquon on 3rd, rinse and repeat and score touchdowns and win games. He is their offense, and Saquon Barkley coming back, and he's put himself back in the conversation of being an elite ball carrier, where there was a lot of talk where it was just like, is he going to get traded away? Is he even worth taking the 5th-year option on? Is he even worth keeping around? Is this guy, this is a reason why you don't take running backs this high up. This is exactly why. Look at the injuries. And people were writing him off, and he has come back and literally he shut everybody up. There's not a single thing any of the haters can say because he's that good right now.
No, absolutely. He's silencing any critic that is left for Saquon. So good for him.
Yep. Coach of the year. There was a lot of good candidates here. There's a lot of guys that are like, a lot of people wrote off or were really kind of like down on and have come back and have been really, really interesting candidates. Who did you land on for coach of the year?
So I ended up going with Brian Dable, and I think you can make the case for literally 5 different coaches. I think you can make the case that they should be the coach of the year. But the reason why I landed on Dable was because I thought this Giants team coming into this year, I thought they were going to be, bottom of the barrel, just real tanking for a quarterback. But he's gotten so much out of this team with really not that much talent. And I know people are going to point to make the comparison to Robert Saleh and say that he's gotten a ton out of this team, and he has. I don't want to discredit anything that Saleh's done, but if you look at the Jets roster and look at the Giants roster, the Jets roster is significantly better. What Dable is doing right now with that Giants team is nothing short of remarkable.
Yep.
And they're going to be scary once they start to add a couple more draft classes and a free agent class from Joe Schoen. I think that combination of Joe Schoen and Brian Dable is going to be excellent, and I think it's Dable's award this year.
I think it's Dable's award to lose, honestly. If the Giants keep performing and outperforming their roster, you have to be really, really critical of what is going on there. I think you said it perfectly. But for me, at the halfway point in the season, I had to give it to Nick Sirianni, undefeated. I looked at it and I thought Pete Carroll probably deserves to be in here. People were talking about him being too old to go through another rebuild. Kevin O'Connell and what he's doing in Minnesota was a head coach I looked at. I even put Robert Saleh on my list because a lot of what the media was saying, and obviously we know that the media votes on this. But ultimately, the tiebreaker came between Brian Dable and Nick Sirianni, and I just went with the fact that the Eagles are 8-0 under Nick Sirianni. And a lot of people were clowning on him, and he's playing free throws in draft rooms with kids and rock paper scissors in the draft, and it's a lot of these. There's no other word, antics and things that he's doing, but he's got that team playing, ready to run through brick walls, fighting every down of every snap. They're never out of a game. They tend to lead games. They're the best second quarter team in the NFL, and they just get ahead of you, and then you just can't catch up. That team is doing incredible things, and so right now, while I agree that it is Brian Dable's award to lose, you got to give respect to what's happening with Philadelphia and them being 8-0.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the guys that came across my mind. Like I said, there's 4 or 5 guys I think you can make a strong case for. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he won it.
Absolutely. Now, assistant coach of the year, before we move on to the Jets awards, who did you have for your assistant coach of the year?
So I ended up going with Eric Bieniemy, and the reason for that is because of just, I think, how impressive this Chiefs offense still is. I think everyone was writing them off last year with or going into this year, I guess I should say, with no Tyreek Hill. Wide receiver room doesn't really look the same. Is this the year they take the step back? The Chargers are everyone's favorite darling, and the Raiders are going to be good, and the Broncos are going to be good, and the Chiefs were the forgotten team, it felt like, in that AFC West. And they are number 1 in points and number 2 in yards. They just continue to do it each and every year. I know he has a stud at quarterback, the best quarterback in the league. Yeah, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. But I think he deserves a ton of credit for keeping them at that pace, even though they lost so many pieces on that offense.
That's really interesting because when I came up with my list, I came up with 4 names, and Bieniemy wasn't even on my list of people. My list that I went with was Wink Martindale from the New York Giants and what he's doing with that defense, and they were giving players away and cutting guys. Bradbury is one of the best corners in the league right now with Philly, getting rid of him and still having a great performance. Jonathan Gannon from Philadelphia and what he's doing. Dan Quinn and what he's doing in Dallas. Um, and then, but for me, and I think it's Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator from Buffalo, was
Dorsey.
yeah, it was Dorsey, right? Because Leslie Frazier is their defensive coordinator. Those were the four guys that I put on my list, and I was looking at, and I was like, who am I going to give it to? And I think I had to give it to Dan Quinn. I think he is coaching. He is the de facto head coach of that team, in my opinion. Mike McCarthy is keeping the seat warm while they work out on getting Sean Payton, and Dan Quinn is doing such an incredible job with what Dallas has on defense and having these guys like. You see this happen all the time. Like a defensive coordinator or whatever has studs up and down the roster and then still can't get them to perform at a high level or to work together or to. Dan Quinn is not doing that. If Dan Quinn doesn't get a head coaching job in this cycle, it's rigged. Something's wrong. He is by far and away, in my opinion, the best coordinator when you look at possibility of jumping to a head coach, just because of what he's doing and how he's running that Dallas Cowboys defense. I love what I'm seeing from Dan Quinn, and I had to give him the award.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he won it last year too, and
Yeah.
for good reason. He's an incredible coordinator.
Yeah. Yeah, Dan Quinn did win it in 2021. Dable won it in 2020. Again, same names that we keep hearing. Like when you have good guys, you have good guys, and there's definitely a conversation to be had with what is happening there. I think an outside shot, if this Jets defense keeps performing the way that they are, we might see an Ulbrich vote or two in that conversation, just because the 32nd ranked defense in the league, and now they're the number one defense in the league, according to a lot of people. If that keeps going, man, it might be hard to keep Jeff Ulbrich's name out of the voting. But we'll see what happens. Let's wrap the video up here with the Jets Awards. If you had to give an MVP award right now to most valuable Jet, who is it going to be?
I think it's got to be Quinnen.
Yep.
What he's been able to do for this team in a really pivotal year for him. He needed to take a big step forward, and he's answered every single question. He's due for a contract extension, and he's going to cash in this offseason with his performance. He's been unbelievable.
Absolutely. And if it's me, I'm 28, 29, whatever it takes to bring him in, especially knowing that the cap is going to explode in 2024 with the new TV deals. You sign him now long-term with however much money he wants. You're not paying Zach. You're not paying really anybody on this team right now. You give the man whatever he needs because he is the MVP. I had him as the MVP. If you had to pick one offensive player of the year for the New York Jets, who is it going to be?
Can I still take Elijah Vera Tucker, even though he's injured? I think just what he's been able to do for this team and go and play at three different positions and play well at three different positions on the offensive line was just so impressive to me. He was supposed to be this team's right guard. He played it for a handful of games, went out to left tackle for a game, held down the fort at right tackle. I think what he was able to do was just so truly impressive.
It's one of those things where going into this offseason, because I like to think general manager-ish. I don't just like to think about the next game. I like to think about, what do the next 6 games look like? What does the next year look like at this position? And one of the places I think everybody was really scared about was offensive tackle. And I looked at it and I go, I want to move Elijah Vera Tucker back to guard. That's where I want him playing. But honestly, worst case scenario, if we don't have the tackles available, I am so comfortable playing Elijah Vera Tucker either tackle. I don't care. He can pick which one he wants to do, and I love that. I had to give it to Garrett Wilson with what he's doing and the pace that he's got at the wide receiver position, especially after watching the Buffalo game. I was doing the post game with Buffalo Jet fan, and he mentioned something that I immediately took and am claiming as my own, even though I'm giving him credit for. It was after watching, and I watched the game back multiple times, and I just looked at 17. After watching Garrett Wilson on the same field as Stephon Diggs and watching those two guys run their routes and do their things, it's really, really hard to not be like, that guy is that guy, just younger. Like, that guy might turn into that guy. And if you're telling me that we found our own Stephon Diggs in the draft and we didn't have to trade for him and then pay him a bunch of money, sign me up, because Garrett Wilson is doing incredible things. And with the news that, Elijah's coming into the slot and Garrett's going out to the outside more often, I think both of their production is only going to go up with this offense as long as Zach keeps doing Zach things. But Elijah Vera Tucker, Man, I said this when him and Brees Hall got hurt. I said, we're going to be okay after the Brees injury. We might not be okay after the Elijah Vera Tucker one.
Yeah, I don't know how you replace someone who could play 3 different positions on the offensive line. That's
4, because
just
he could play left guard too if we needed to with Laken
yeah,
Tomlinson.
yeah. He's played what does he have? 19 career games, something like that, and he's played 4 different positions on the offensive line.
And I have no doubt in my mind that if Connor McGovern went down and he was asked to play center, he would do it at an elite level. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yep, no doubt.
At all. Defensive player, we already gave Q the MVP, so we can't give Q the defensive player. Why are you giving it to Sauce Gardner?
Yeah, I mean, well, because I can't give it to Q, because I think what Q's been doing is just downright phenomenal. But we talked about Sauce a lot already on this show, but he's so special. With his size, he should not be able to move the way that he moves, and he's shutting down so many good receivers. He got burned on one of the first plays of the game against Buffalo, and then locked it down after that. Obviously came up huge on the final play of the game on the 4th down, and he is just it's a blessing to watch him every week.
Absolutely. I actually didn't give it to Sauce. I wouldn't have given it to Q either. That's not trying to take it away from Quinnen Williams. He's doing an excellent thing in what he's doing, and Sauce is, like I said, he's the best corner in football in my opinion. Weird glitch there, but we're back. So if I had to give a defensive award to a player, it's not going to be Sauce, and it's not going to be Q, and it's not because I think Q is doing a bad job or anything like that. I think he's our best player. That's why I agree to give him the MVP. And I also think Sauce is doing an incredibly good job with what he's doing, obviously. But I have to give it to CJ Mosley, and it's just because he's quarterbacking that defense at such a high level. And after hearing the comments from Bill Belichick and what he said about, it almost seemed like the Jets knew, and CJ Mosley specifically knew the play call that was coming. Like, that's incredibly high praise from one of the best, if not the best head coach in football. And you could see it during the Bills game. He's audibling out of calls and telling, no, hey, we're not doing this coverage, go. And he's telling the corners, hey, we're doing this, and the linebackers do this, and he's looking up at the safeties, do this, and then he turns around, gets set, and then the ball gets snapped. It's like he knew the timing before anybody else, and he knew the play before anybody else. And one of the announcers, I think, said it perfectly, which was, it almost seemed like CJ has lost a step in speed, but he makes up for it by just knowing what your play call is before you've made the play call, and he's just in the right spot all of the time. And he's one of those players that I looked at where I was like, at the beginning of the season, we were talking about how we can get out from under his contract. And now I'm looking at him as, maybe we want to keep this guy around and restructure him, obviously at a much lower number if possible, because he's playing at such a high level. Last award, special teams player for the New York Jets. Who are you giving it to?
I'm going to give it to Greg Zuerlein. I think with what he's been able to do and solidify the kicking position's really huge. The Jets really haven't had a stable kicking situation in years, and there was a kicking competition between him and Pinheiro in the offseason. So it really wasn't, locked in until he won it, and it started a little bit rough. He missed a kick on opening day, but ever since he's been pretty phenomenal. I think he's been pretty great so far for the Jets. So I'm going to give it to him for stabilizing that position.
Absolutely. And I think the kicker is one of the most important positions where people don't give enough credit to it, because Greg has been almost automatic all year. Like that Denver game, he made more field goals than the guy at home, right? Like that's where you practice, is in Denver, and you're dealing with the wind and all that stuff. But Greg was right up middle through the uprights. That's an absolutely great call. For me, I had to give it to one of my favorite defensive players who's playing on special teams at such a high level. I had to give it to Brandon Echols, and what he's doing on that special teams unit is absolutely fantastic when it comes to blocking, when it comes to getting downfield, getting to the ball really, 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 really quickly and effectively, not giving up extra yards on punt returns and kick returns. He has been an incredible force, and the thing that I love about it is that Brandon Echols is not only playing at special teams at a really high level, but unlike a Justin Hardy or some people, not me, but some people look at maybe an Ashton Davis, the way that everybody looks at Jeff Smith when he's on the field. Nobody wants to see these guys on the field taking snaps that aren't special team snaps. Brandon Echols When I see him on special teams, I go, absolutely fantastic. Let's go. Keep going. But also, when we play a dime package and it's Brandon Echols out there, I trust the kid, and I trust that he's going to make the right decision and cover the guy well. So I had to give it to Brandon Echols. Matt O'Leary, those are all of our guys and all of the people that we have looked at and we gave our awards to. Guys, if you haven't gotten in the comment section, I want to hear from you guys. If you aren't subscribed to Matt O'Leary, you're doing something wrong. Fun fact, Matt, that you don't know, I didn't tell you this on purpose, but you were actually, so I live in Florida, and so there's not a lot of Jets fans. And so when I went, the first person that I ever found on YouTube when it came to watching videos, I think you were this, I think it was your video started off, and then it gave me a Ryan video, and then it gave me a you video, and then it gave me a Green Bean video. And I was like, I'm done. These guys are awesome. And then a few days later, I saw the Talking Jets panel, and I was like, oh my God, all three of them in one place. This is fantastic. And it was like, absolutely great. And it was like your guys' content that really like inspired me to make my channel, just because having the conversations that you guys were having and all that stuff is exactly what I wanted to do. And there's not that very many Jets fans here in Florida. So I want to say thank you, obviously, for being at least a little part of the inspiration for the channel, and ultimately coming on the channel and doing this video with me. Never thought that this would happen, and I really appreciate you for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. That's awesome. I love this community that we have here on YouTube. It's a very tight-knit group. We all get along, and it's awesome. I'm glad you're part of it.
If last thing before we go, you had to predict the last 8 games, what's the Jets record, and do we make the playoffs?
Yes, I think they go 5-3 over the last 8 and finish with an 11-6 record.
I love it. That's what I have him going as well. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. All of Matt O'Leary's stuff, his Twitter, his YouTube channel, everything that I can find is going to be in the description below. Go hit the like button. Go hit the subscribe button. Go hit everything that you can on his channel. He's doing absolutely fantastic things. His Jets pod that he does every day, I think it's Just Jets, right?
Yeah, I have the Just Jets, which is every Wednesday, and then the Jet Report Monday.
Jet Report. The Jet Report every day. It is a fantastic listen. Every single day I listen to it. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so it comes out, and it's one of those things that keep me sane during the baby's nap times. I love it. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Thank you for hitting the like button on the way out. And last but not least, and always, go Jets.